Scene 8 in my version of King Lear, which remember is based on the quarto version, is Act 3, Scene 1 in the folio version. Now, traditionally in Act 3 in Shakespeare, we get the sort of big dramatic moments. We get the idea of the wheel of fortune turning as the heroes start to, you know, be brought down to earth a little bit. And that's sort of what happens here as well. We get the storm, which represents Lear's fractured mind, and it also represents that clash between him wanting to be powerful and the power of sort of God and nature to really sort of cut him down to size. We're told in line 6 that Lear tears his white hair, and it's a great bit to analyse for all sorts of different reasons. Firstly, just the image of a frustrated man tearing his white hair. Compare that to the very stately image that we get in Act 1. Secondly, because it means he's bareheaded. If his hair's there, you know, it means that the crown's gone. So again, that represents the loss of power. Look at the white hair, which shows his age coming, and also you possibly get the white representing innocence and this idea of rebirth. Often in Shakespeare, the destruction is cathartic, which means that it sort of gets rid of the corrupt old system and something new can come. I think we get that idea throughout Lear, you know, that this old way of life does just need to go to allow new things to develop. And then shortly after, about line 9, we're told that Lear strives in his little world of man to outscorn the to and fro conflicting wind and rain. And the to and fro's are great because there's to and fro in that line, isn't there, between Lear as this, you know, man who's lacking power and the power of the wind and rain. A Jacobean audience might watch that and see that as a sign of the power of God versus man. Bradley talks about that, the way that ultimately Shakespearean tragedy is about how these great men are brought down to size to remind us that God is more powerful than anyone. Another way of looking at that is to argue with Bradley and say, well, actually, was Lear ever this great man? Wasn't Lear always in the little world of man? He thought he was great, but he was really just a big fish in a very, very small pond. And he was flawed from the start, and he wasn't this great hero. And actually, Shakespeare's representing the bad side of a way of life, this old patriarchal system that just sort of need to die out. And that sense of sort of confusion carries on into line 17. Kent says there is division between Albany and Cornwall, so now we get the sense that they do really, really diverge, those two. Up until now, they've just sort of been the husbands, haven't they? You know, unimportant in some ways in their own right, like Raquel and Cassandra in Only Fools and Horses. But now they're really splitting, they're getting their own identity. Cornwall, who becomes worse and worse, and almost on a level, if not worse than Regan. Albany, who turns good. But there's that sense that Albany had to start off at that point to then emerge as a hero who's left alive at the end. Just like Edgar has to be brought right down to become poor Tom so that he can cope. In the new world, blind loyalty like Kent's got isn't going to help you. Blind patriarchal power like Lear's got isn't going to help you. Literal blind, you know, knowledge and blind power of Gloucester isn't going to help you. You have to be able to be adaptable, and we see it in Albany. We see it in Edgar. Both of them are able to sort of, you know, adapt with this new world. Kent, by comparison, about line 38, he says if you shall see Cordelia, show her this ring. So he gives this ring as a signifier of his ongoing loyalty. And Kent himself is almost like this ring, isn't he? Yes, he is in disguise, but he's very much this object who just sticks by Lear the whole way through, who isn't quite able to adapt. Again, it foreshadows the end where Kent just sort of says, you know, I might as well go now. There's no place for me in this new world. Scene 2, Lear actually speaks then, and it opens with Lear sort of shouting at the storm. Line 3, or 2 and 3, he says, spout till you've drenched the steeple, shouting at the storm, you know, basically, come on, have a go at me. It's a very biblical image. It's like Noah. It's like the story of Noah in the Bible. You know, the rain coming and drenching all the steeples. Now, in the flood in the Bible, the idea was that God needed to sort of flatten the old world, you know, destroy the old world to make way for something better. It was so corrupt it needed to be flooded and changed. That's also basically what Shakespeare does in his plays, isn't it? You know, catharsis is the end, the violent end of the old world to make way for the new. So again, those things are sort of linked. If you want to take a religious perspective here, you could look at that actually everything does just need to be swept away to sort of start again. Obviously, that is confused at the end, as O'Toole says, because with Cordelia's death, well, she's the most holy, the most innocent character who then gets killed. So Shakespeare deliberately makes that problematic. There's no obvious answer to this at all. Lear on line 7 says, smite flat the thick rotundity of the world. Again, you know, crush the world flat. Again, very biblical image, but I think the rotundity of the world is almost like the wheel of fortune, isn't it? He's saying just flatten everything. Well, the rotundity of the world is also like the wheel of fortune that turns throughout this play. And Albany and Edgar can turn on that wheel of fortune. They can switch their role and adapt to get to the top. Lear clearly can't. Lear's this old man saying, flatten it, get rid of the wheel of fortune. There's a great contrast there between Edgar and Albany are able to adapt, and Lear just says, oh, to hell with it, you know, I don't want this, I don't want this structure at all. He can't keep pace with the world that's going. The Fool does warn him. The Fool's a much more adaptable character. He says, line 12, good and uncle Ian, and ask thy daughter's blessing. Here's a knight pities neither wise man nor fool. There's that sense of that levelling here, isn't there? Lear as this foolish king, and the Fool as this wise fool. You know, they've been levelled here. In this unnatural world, the roles are shifting, and Lear can't rely on his old patriarchal power anymore. And Lear, you know, stresses that about line 18. Here I stand, your slave. You know, he's literally been lowered down to this you know, subservient role under God. And then he says about line 18, sorry, not 1838, I will say nothing. Great echo of Cordelia there, isn't there? Lear reduced to just nothingness, reduced to silence. Irony being he still doesn't really understand the value of nothing. He's saying I will say nothing because he realises he's lost all power, but he can't see the value of that. Edgar can. Edgar becomes poor Tom, and then he's reborn. Lear still can't see the value of actually having nothing and being nothing to allow you to form a new identity. Exactly what Albany, exactly what Edgar do. Ken says to him in 48ish, man's nature cannot carry fiction nor the force of the storm. Double meaning there. There's literal meaning of, you know, men aren't cut out for this. Men can't cope in this foul weather. The other meaning is that man's actual nature is stormy now. Men have got this, you know, again, we've got this division coming, haven't we, that people need to choose one way or the other. And there's that sense that the play is about the conflicts, and Lear and Gloucester can't cope. Both of them sort of die over broken hearts. Those divisions actually literally tear them apart. The old patriarchal world isn't working. They've got to change, but they can't. Lear's just saying, no, just flatten the world. I can't cope with it. And then line 60, central line of the play in many ways. Lear says, I am a man more sinned against than sinning. Is he? There's no obvious answer to that. Is Lear ultimately a victim of higher forces, or is Lear the cause of his own downfall? Castan, you know, asks this question, doesn't he, really? In Shakespearean tragedy, is it human weakness? Is it just fate? Or is it a higher power that punishes us? In many ways, how we react to Lear is the answer to that, isn't it? Is Lear the victim of higher powers that he can't control, or is Lear a man who is ultimately weak, who has caused it himself? Is it a bit of both? Kent says to him about line 61, a lack bareheaded, really poignant line, you know, again, the literal meaning, Kent saying, you're out in this storm with nothing on your head to protect you, but also, obviously, there's the bare head of Lear as his power's been stripped away, as he's lost his crown, as he's, you know, as he's lost everything, really. And then the Fool sings right at the end, a really, really, you know, tiny little song, in many ways insignificant, but I think what's worth noting on this is, in the play Twelfth Night, very, very different play, much earlier play, you know, comic play by Shakespeare. There's a character called Feste the Fool who sings a song that is very, very similar to this right at the end. Now, Robert Armin played the Fool in Twelfth Night, and we might well assume that Robert Armin plays the Fool in King Lear. If that is indeed the case, what we've got here is the actor actually almost borrowing it's like a little in-joke. It's like you get in the Marvel universe when characters, you know, dip into each other's roles. We get the idea that the Fool actually, his character is almost wandered in from another play. You know, the Fool sort of flips from one play to the other. You know, Robert Armin, if he's playing the Fool here is very similar to Feste in Twelfth Night. And again, it's great for that contrast between Lear, who's very much stuck in his ways and can't even see this wheel turning, and the Fool, who's not only aware of this all happening and aware of where this is going, but actually also seems to be aware of what happens in Shakespeare's plays generally. You know, he seems to be aware of catharsis, aware of the wheel of fortune that's turning, and that contrast between them is brilliant. Lear, this man who can't cope with the new world, and the Fool who's so fluid that he actually exists even outside of the world of this play.